Hi, my name is Daniel Presses, and this is Assignment 2, Part 3 for the Game Engine Design and Implementation course. This assignment was completed along with my partners Jeremy Kahn and Daniel Hong. Okay, let's get started. So if I run the game here, the game will be exactly the same as it was in the last part of the assignment. Just running the profiler along with it. Okay, same tutorial. Yep, same stats page, same functionality with the DLL. And go back and restart the game if we want to. That's not the important part here though. Right, so looking at the profiler, this is with the new optimizations. We can see it takes around, there are some like spikes in some places. Okay, this is mostly from the scene, from the stat scene. This is mostly from the main menu here. And this is from the actual game. So around her lowest, we hit around 6 milliseconds for scripting, 3 milliseconds for rendering and such. We already ran some benchmarks beforehand, so this is the profiled run pre-optimization. The sample point here is during the actual tutorial when you're playing the game. Normally the CPU is around 11.8 milliseconds and the player loop is at around 6.85 milliseconds. Then we made our optimizations and profiled it again. Same sample point during the gameplay. We noticed the CPU time was reduced to 7.78 milliseconds roughly, and the player loop to 5.37. Alright, so what did we actually optimize? Well, it turns out that we had a load of code cleanup to do. We ended up removing start and update functions that were just completely empty from all of the scripts that you can see there on screen. This improved performance significantly by around 2 milliseconds per frame. We also tried to improve the player input script. We tried to merge update, fix update, and late update together. We made some statements to check if mouse input was actually greater than 0, so we didn't have to make all the calculations if we didn't need to. We moved the logic to actually look at a point above the character from mouse input into start. Yeah, we also have an if statement to check if the actual mouse input is greater than 0 to reduce the amount of calculations needed to move the camera around. Surprisingly, after all these quote-unquote optimizations, the game actually ran slower, so we had to kind of leave those out. We also looked into other things, particularly from the game programming patterns book. We looked at spatial partitioning. Basically, the idea was that all the enemies that are already object pooled would only spawn within a certain range of the player, and you can basically test whether they're close enough to the player based on cell partitioning on certain parts of the level, instead of iterating through the list of all the enemies and checking every individual position against every one. If they're seriously far away, you wouldn't even bother to check them. We looked into it, but we decided there weren't enough enemies and they weren't spaced out enough to start implementing this, and we decided it wasn't worth implementing in the end. Thank you for listening. This was Assignment 2, Part 3 for the Game Engine Design and Implementation course. My name is Daniel Presses, and have a good night.